I used to always wonder how people actually were sober. Like, how did they do that? How did they live every day without something to take the edge off, to allow them to escape all the things going on in their head? How do they cope? How do they manage? How do they live like that? How does someone be sober? I was so perplexed by this because after decades of being in the throes of substance abuse, it seems like such a foreign concept to me. The hardest part is not what you think it is. So stay tuned. Stay here with me for this episode of the Conscious Coffee Break, where we talk about what really is the hurdle standing in your way between the way you're living now, whatever that may be, and being sober day in, day out at Continuum. All right, welcome again to another Conscious Coffee Break with Jennifer Sack. Obviously, I'm Jennifer Sack, and I am an online wellness mentor, and I'm helping people who are sober curious, sober ready, maybe perhaps, move through that transition into a sober lifestyle by taking out the scariness of it, because it can be quite terrifying. So, we're going to address all the things that hold us back. And today, I'm going to get down to a very finite piece of the puzzle. And I'm just going to hit you with it straight off the bat. Okay, the hardest part isn't what you think it is. It's not actually moving through the day in, the day out. The hardest part is making the decision to become sober once and for all. That is terrifying because all the other fears come up once that decision even enters your mind. Before you've decided and you're thinking, I might want to do this, I might need to do this, all the other fears dredge up. All the other things that may change in your life, your relationships, your lifestyle, your social circle, coping with anxiousness or any sort of emotional instability, how to just be without that sort of like security blanket of whatever it is that you use to try and feel better. All the fears surface once the first thought comes of, I think I need to get sober. Maybe I should be sober. The decision to become sober is the biggest hurdle. Everything else will fall into place after that. And if you have all those other fears that come up, stick with me, hang out on this channel, because this is the sort of content that I'm going to be putting out, addressing all of these fears and talking you through it because so many things, because it's worth your while. And I think deep down you know that, or you wouldn't even be here listening to that. But right now, if you're just curious or you're just like at that point where enough is enough, you know you need to make a change. I'm telling you, the decision to change is the biggest hurdle. Now, why is that? It's one, because it brings up all the other fears, like I just mentioned. And two, it's because without that decision, everything falls apart. You may have noticed, if you were like me at all, that you have maybe made this decision several times. Maybe you even told people. Maybe you didn't tell people. Funny thing, we don't typically tell people because we know in the back of our mind we're going to renege on that. Like, I'm going to fail at this. I don't want anybody to know I failed at this. So I'm going to secretly pretend, that I'm just, taking a break or, I just don't feel like drinking today or whatever it is. In the back of my mind, I'm trying desperately to white knuckle my way through this, but I don't want to fail publicly. So I'm not going to tell anybody. And then there's other times where we've told people, I'm sober now, and then we backslide. So there's this decision. There's a kind of varying levels to decision. There's a decision that's a little wishy-washy, where in the back of our mind, we're like, yeah, I'm trying. I hope so. Hope this sticks. Hope it lands this time. And then there's this decision that is like in the core of your bones. It's like reverbing through your body. It's in your veins. It's hard, cold stone decision of like, no, I'm done. That is a turning point. It's scary as fuck. Let's be honest. But it is the turning point. Once you can make that decision, that level of decision where you're like, line in the sand, no more negotiating, you have crossed your biggest hurdle. Up until that point, all you're doing is negotiating with yourself and others all the time. Because here's what's going to happen. There's not going to be an actual deadline if you're just kind of wishy-washy in your decision, or you're just, dipping your toes in the water of sobriety and then coming back out. There's always going to be a reason you push it off, like an upcoming event, like the holidays are coming up, right? Someone's birthday party, a celebration, or maybe you're just stressed out about something like a project at work, and you're like, once I get through this project, I'll be in a good place. We always postpone thinking there's going to be this moment in time that's just like perfect, that will just set us up to become sober. That is a mirage. It does not exist. And here's the thing, all of those things are always going to happen while you're sober. There's always going to be a party, a social function, a celebration, a traumatic event, a stressful event. There's always going to be things that are going to come up to where you would have naturally used your substance of choice, and you're not going to be able to. So postponing making that decision based on an upcoming situation is not helping you. It's not doing you any favors. Okay, maybe you're thinking, okay, the first week of my sobriety shouldn't be a party week or something where stuff is going on. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe proving to yourself that you can do it on that first week would make the rest of everything so much easier. Maybe it's not for you. That's really a personal choice. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just saying, until you make a hardcore decision, everything kind of is in flux. There's no actual deadline. There's always an excuse and always a reason to postpone it. It's not going to stick. There's no traction involved whatsoever. Really, no commitment, especially if you're not telling anybody about it, because now you don't have any accountability. And I have told people about it a million times. Doesn't always mean you're going to be accountable. Because especially if you look at the company that you're keeping, the people who may drink or whatever it is, use whatever substances alongside you, I hate to say it, they don't actually typically want to see you get better because this brings up all of their shit about themselves. They kinda look at themselves and go, "Oh god, maybe should I be getting better?" They're afraid they're gonna lose you as a friend. The whole dynamic, they're afraid of the shift of that. So they're not really there rallying behind you if they're the crowd that you've been doing that with all along. You might even get made fun of. There's so many things that can come up that are gonna make them not be your number one cheerleader. So telling some people, um, you got to be choosy in who you tell, basically, is my point there. Because if you tell someone who is sober and is on your side and is like, yes, you can do this, it's going to hold so much more water and accountability on your part because you can believe in that. You have something to grasp onto. If you know that you're telling a camp that would really prefer you didn't get sober, that you were getting sober, telling them does nothing, because the second you drop your guard or you backslide and you go back to it, they're going to be the first ones to be like, "Come back to the party. Come on. So fun. So glad to have you back. Just this one time. Just one. It's okay. Just this once." Trust me. Be very choosy on who you tell. That's a side note. But what I want to say is that you've got to make the decision. That is the hardest part. And I know it brings up all the scary stuff. It brings up so much stuff. I get it. I understand. That's why I thought about sobriety for 7 years. The last 3 years of that 7, I went in and out, in and out. Sometimes I would be sober for 3 months, sometimes for 3 days, sometimes for 3 hours. That crazy, right? For 3 years until that hardcore decision got made and there was no turning back. And then I dealt with the wake of everything else that came behind that. And that's what I'm here to help you with, because I don't want you to take 7 years to think about it. I don't want you to waffle in and out for 3 years. And maybe you're like, "Yeah, Jennifer, I can top you. It's been 10 years of moving in and out of sobriety." Whatever. There's always a moment where you can change, where you can draw that line in the sand, or you can make a hardcore decision and move through a transition of the way of life that you live. One that's more aligned with you, one that you know sits better with you. There's a plethora of reasons why people get sober. Some people need to for health reasons. Some people just know their life would be better. Some people just feel like they've outgrown something. There's a million reasons. It's very personal, and you all are owed that. I'll never judge any of those reasons, and none are better than others. So let's stop like trying to trade war stories. That's stupid. It's just the matter of making a decision, that you know the depth of your soul is the right one for you. No matter what everybody else wants or thinks or has to say about it, what do you need? And that brings me to my point of how you can kind of start to make that decision. And I know it's scary, so you don't have to make it today, but I want you to start pondering your why. Why do you feel like it's time to do this? Why are you suddenly mulling this over? Maybe it's not suddenly, maybe it's been for years. Why do you want it now? Why is it important to you? You need to get really clear on that because you're going to need to come back to that over and over again as you move through and transition into your lifestyle, into your sober lifestyle. You're going to have to remind yourself of that. And it may change. So don't feel like you picked one reason and now you're stuck there. You might have five good reasons. That's all flexible and changing. But as long as you have one that is like good enough to make you go, okay, yeah. And you can remind yourself every time why you made that decision, then you're going to be able to transition so much easier. It's going to be able to sustain itself this time. And it's going to be a hell of a lot less scary. It's not going to not be scary, but you're going to have the grit to move through it. Okay, my friends, that's all I have to say for you today. If you are sober curious, if you are maybe sober ready, I just want you to hang out here in my world. Keep coming back for more. And I want you to know you are not alone. You are not broken by any means. And I don't care how many times you've maybe tried before. You're always capable of this. And if something is telling you you need to move through this transition, please don't delay. Don't delay. And I'll see you next time, my friends.